All right, we're in the third episode of a quick 3-episode series on a stack of folders I found recently in the Strange As It Seems archives. We just did pool and polo. Actually, we just did roller skating. Before that, we did pool and polo. And now we're going to finish with rope skipping, soccer, and table tennis. I think these were in alphabetical order, probably in the sports section. I used to have all these folders in the old file cabinets, what they called the dope or the proof of all the stories as strange as it seems. And so let's finish out these last 3 folders, just a few stories in each on rope skipping, soccer, and table tennis to finish out this third of 3 episodes. Welcome back. This is Jeff Hicks, curator of the Strange As It Seems archives and grandnephew of John Hicks, who created Strange As It Seems back in the late 1920s. Before I dive into these final few folders here, I'd like to ask you, please hit the bell to subscribe if you like content like this, old-time radio shows, comic strips. I even have some of the old short films that were done in the 1930s, some of them by Universal. I haven't found those yet. Those are somewhere on Nitrate. Hopefully, we'll find them, but I do have a few from 16 millimeter that I found from Columbia in the late 1930s. But if you like content like this, we'd love to get your engagement. Please leave a comment as well. If you have any interesting facts about any of these subjects or family members, or just even insights, or if you find this kind of interesting, fascinating, or funny, we'd love to hear. Your engagement goes a long way to helping me bring back this almost 100-year-old brand back for the digital age. So let's dive in. We'll start with rope skipping here. I've got a few. It looks like, I don't know if this made it into a comic strip or not, but here's a rope jumping record from 1929. So this would have been, love this, on the back of the old McClure newspaper syndicate letterhead. But rope jumping record, Providence, Rhode Island, April 29th. Frankie Malafante, an amateur boxer, apparently jumped the rope 2,309 times in 16 minutes and 30 seconds. I guess he had beat the record of 2,000 set for the same period by Johnny Dundee. So some of this kind of old in here. Again, I don't know if the comic strip is in here. If I find it, I'll throw it up in the episode. I'm kind of working through a little bit of a messy folder here, but here's another one way back from 1931. How about Chester Levere, age 61. So I'm almost 61. Skipped a rope 18,500 times without stopping. And I love these old ones too. They say, any reader wanting further proof of anything depicted here should address John Hicks, care of this paper, and enclose a stamp and self-addressed envelope for reply. And as I've said in several episodes, that's really what made Strange As It Seems different than Ripley's Believe It or Not, who was the main competitor at the time. And that's really what I think is the fascinating treasure trove here of articles and here photographs and things like that were kept just in case anybody wanted to challenge a fact. And that's the archives that I have and I'm going through. It's going to take me another several years, I think, to get through the archives. But fascinating journey, and thank you for joining me on it. Here is another one. This is 1932. Pete Schuster. I guess it featured him a couple of times in 1932. He skipped 7,518 times in 1 hour, and then 3,600 times in 19 minutes. So kind of a crazy kid here, Pete Schuster. A couple of pretty cool photographs of him, in quite good shape. Handwritten letter as well from Pete himself, and several articles corresponding it. As ever a friend, I am Pete Schuster from Martinsburg, West Virginia. Also a pretty cool couple of articles on him, and several letters here from Pete Schuster. Apparently he lost quite a bit of weight as well. I was trying to see just a few, let you know I have good news for you on the rope skipping. I am a real skipper. 3,600 times in 19 minutes before the newspaper man. So he had a newspaper man in front of him and an audience as he did it for proof. I guess also before 1,200 spectators. Crazy. Can you imagine 1,200 people getting together just to see a guy complete a feat like this? Before the days of iPhones and flip for entertainment, right? So crazy. Yeah, please try to get it in the Martinsburg paper. That's where it was. And crazy. Also, stopwatch and a clicker and a beef score. I'm not sure what that is, but that was all it took to prove the feats of Pete Schuster, expert rope skipper. And here's A. Mahoney from Melbourne, Australia. He did it 276 times in 1 minute, officially timed in 1934. And then there's Tom Morris, who tied that record. Tom Morris, apparently, Australian athlete. My grandma featured him later, one of the greatest all-round athletes as he was known, all the way from here from 1935. He skipped rope from Melbourne to Adelaide and back, over 1,000 miles. Another time here he did 590 miles in 28 days. Pretty extraordinary guy, I guess. I'm not sure all the different why he was known as the greatest all-round athlete. That isn't here, but great letter here from the Australian News and Information Bureau from 1954, confirming, yes, indeed, the Tom Morris skipping story is correct. Other skipping records: Melbourne to Sydney, 599 miles in 28 days. This was in 1935. He went from Sydney to Brisbane, 700 miles, 162 hours in August 37. And then Melbourne to Adelaide and back, 1,000 miles. Crazy. Skipping rope in 1935. And then a kind of a speed record, it looks like. 22,806 turns without a break in 1937 in 2 hours. Amazing. What an amazing athlete. Tom Morris, Sydney, Australia. And the final one here for rope skipping, as it were, Tommy Thompson, physical director of the Pueblo, Colorado YMCA, 20,010 times in 113 minutes without a miss. How about that? I love this when they write the letter back and then send the original letter. So I have a lot of these original letters they would send back, and great to have these in the archives. But the original letter from Elsie Hicks from June 17th, 1954. A couple more small folders with a few facts in them here. Just a few in this folder. Strangely enough, you'd think there'd be more in soccer, but we have just a few. We've got the tie tournament. Francis School played Heath Park School 7 draw soccer games before winning 3-0. Fort Williams, Ontario. This is in 1934. Played a 570 minutes to decide the finalists in 1933. Crazy. Credit the Public School Soccer League of this city with a new record for the right to enter the league final. Francis played Heath Park 8 games before winning last night 3-0. They played 3 times to a draw at 1-1 and 4 times to a scoreless draw. The total playing time to decide the winner was 570 minutes. I guess that's 9.5 hours. Believed to be a record in any league. How about this? Do you know that soccer? I think I knew this, but just in case you didn't, you know where the word came from. It was a corruption of the word association. Crazy. I've heard this before, but about 1860, various professional teams on tours tried the Ellis idea, running with the ball as well as kicking it, and it caught the fancy of spectators through 1861, and the new style of play gained favor, and that angered those who were still playing the original game. And so much that in 1863 they met and formed the London Football Association, pledging that they would play none other than the pure, undiluted kicking game. And the word soccer, as now applied to the game, comes from a jumbled abbreviation of association and was used to distinguish it from that wherein the ball was carried. And that's why, I guess, although they still call it football everywhere else in the world, here in the U.S., we call it soccer. And just one more fact here in the soccer folder. Again, not many here, but we've got the Raftery Eagans and the Old Timers soccer teams. They were still tied 1-1 at the end of 8 overtime periods. So they called it quits. Game lasted over 2 hours. St. Louis, 1941. And a couple of cool letters from the city of St. Louis Parks and Recreation and the St. Louis Chamber of Commerce, 1941, corroborating that. That's all we have for soccer. And for the final folder in this little journey we've taken through pool, polo, roller skating, what did we just get through? Rope skipping, soccer. We've got the final folder here on table tennis with just a few facts in here. Strange as it seems on this. Interesting, the trademarked sport name ping pong. I didn't know this. I mean, I guess I could have guessed it, but it derives its name from the sound the balls make when in play. It was a trade name owned by the game's manufacturer, which was the Parker Brothers, right? Remember all those games when we were kids made by the Parker Brothers? Well, they're the ones that coined the term. Celluloid tennis balls, apparently, this is from 1936. They were the forerunners of ping pong balls. They originally designed for full-size indoor tennis. Crazy there, 1936. Little bit of history there on, apparently, here's another one too. It was invented by the English officers in India, and the first net was library books. Crazy. Opened up and played. There's a little bit of the history there. And the final fact here on the ping pong table tennis subject, and joined here by my partner in crime and assistant, if you can see her. This is Bernie, our friendly cat. But I think this is pretty poignant, and it says a lot about the brand. Here's the fact. Robert Linane played 600 games of table tennis without defeat. And I love this. Just what really made Strange as It Seems different was this adherence to proving what was true. And I think it's kind of a poignant thing in this day and age when we live in a world of AI and deep fakes and what's true and what's not true. It seems like that's what's debated in the news literally every night. And you kind of go back into this folder and you realize this is all they needed back then, right? It was just was a handwritten letter. And I love this too. Here's a signed affidavit, right? From, I offer myself as a witness to the ability and record of R. Linane as a ping pong champion, Christopher House settlement in Chicago. And it was signed by John Sotiros from Chicago, Illinois. And that was proof, right? I love this too. He sent back the original letter. I love these. John Hicks signed letter. They would send back the original letter along with a handwritten. Know that this photo, if you can, please return the photo. So that's why we don't have the photo. We do have Gabby Hartnett's Athletic Club with Robert Linane as the manager. Here is the days. The waiter played 600 games, 1923 to 1929, without defeat. Also won 6 straight tournaments in the same years without loss in 60 tournament games. I now have a picture playing ping pong that I could send. We don't have that, but I love this. How about from Collier's 1935? And you can almost feel it's like Lenin back then. Some of these old newspaper articles. I'd love to frame these. And by the way, I'll be doing a marketplace here soon at strangeasitseems.com. I imagine a lot of people would love to have some of these articles framed if you're really into ping pong and would love some of the early days of the sport tons of these. Anything you see, by the way, in these episodes, if you'd like me to box it up or frame it for you and send, we'll create a marketplace here for this. But was Collier's November 16th, 1935. Stand back and swing. How about this? What has happened to table tennis? The quiet pastime of invalids changed overnight into a sport requiring the agility of a kangaroo and the ferocity of a tiger. The casualties, however, are still low. This is by Kyle Crichton in Collier's. The table tennis at the vigorous best. There's Ruth Hughes Ahrens. She was the U.S. woman champion. Driving. Note the position of the ball just over the net. Her partner is the Hungarian star, Sandor Glantz. And opposing them are Saul Schiff and Eva Berenbaum, respectively the former and present U.S. champions. So this, I guess, was as the sport was really just taking off. And how about this on the back? A few extra dollars. Here's the difference in cost between the lowest price cars and the sensational new Buick Special is relatively small. I would say so. The base price model, as you can see at the bottom, $765 for a brand new Buick. How about that? But of course, the Buick Special Series, here is $885. So yeah, quite a difference in price then, huh? Wow. Back in the day. So thank you. That wraps up this episode and this series of 3 episodes on these folders on kind of interesting little sports that were alphabetized in the file cabinets. Thank you so much for spending your time. Please hit the bell to subscribe, hit the button to like, and by all means, leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any family members or stories about yourself or just interest in these subjects, it goes a long way to helping me. It goes a long way to helping me bring this brand back. It's almost 100 years old, believe it or not, in my efforts to bring it back for the digital age. And I'll leave you, as I always do, with a quote from John Hicks's first book, published in 1928, when he first launched the brand. The author launches this book of the curious in nature and humankind on the vast sea of public opinion with the hope that it will fulfill its mission to entertain and acquaint its readers with some of the marvels of the world in which we live.